Narrator. Hello and a warm welcome back to the English Learning Podcast's Intermediate Guide series. We are thrilled to have you with us today as we explore practical English for truly enjoyable aspects of life. Today we're diving into a universally appealing topic: planning a weekend getaway. In our busy lives, a short break can be a revitalizing escape. But how do you turn a vague idea of getting away into a concrete, enjoyable plan? What vocabulary do you need to discuss destinations, transportation, accommodation, and activities? How do you manage a budget, coordinate with travel companions, and ensure all the logistics are covered without stress? This episode aims to equip you with the essential language and strategies to confidently plan and discuss your next short escape. Today we're not just dreaming about travel. We're breaking down the practical steps involved in making it happen. Prepare for an exceptionally insightful and practical conversation between Jessica, an experienced travel planner known for her meticulous itineraries, and Kevin, an enthusiastic but sometimes disorganized traveler looking for tips to improve his weekend trips. Their dialogue will not only enhance your English comprehension and vocabulary related to travel planning, logistics, budgeting, and packing, but also arm you with invaluable perspectives and actionable linguistic tools to confidently, clearly, and effectively plan and enjoy your own memorable weekend getaways. So, let's unlock the full potential of communicating about your travel aspirations. Jessica. Kevin, it's a pleasure to discuss weekend getaways with you. I hear you are a keen traveler, always looking for new adventures. What usually sparks the idea for your next short trip? Is it a particular destination, an event, or just a need to escape? Kevin. Jessica, it's great to be here. My travel bug usually gets triggered by a combination of things. Sometimes it's seeing a stunning photo online of a picturesque town or a beautiful hiking trail like the one I saw of Blue Ridge Mountains recently. Other times it's simply a strong urge to escape the routine of city life in Atlanta, Georgia. My biggest challenge is translating that initial spark into a well-organized plan. My trips often end up being a bit spontaneous, which can be fun, but sometimes leads to unnecessary stress or missed opportunities. How do you approach the very first step of planning a getaway? Jessica. That's a common challenge, Kevin. Spontaneity has its charm, but structure minimizes stress. My first step is always to define the purpose and preferences of the trip. Is it for relaxation, adventure, culture, or food? Who am I traveling with? A solo trip, a romantic escape, or a family outing with my husband Mark and our 2 children? This helps narrow down destination options. For example, if it is a relaxing trip for 2, a quiet spa resort in Asheville, North Carolina might be perfect. If it is an adventurous trip for a group of friends, perhaps whitewater rafting in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Once the purpose is clear, I set a realistic budget. Have you ever tried to define the specific purpose of your trips before picking a destination? Kevin. Not explicitly, no. I usually just jump straight to looking at interesting places on a map. Defining the purpose first makes a lot of sense. It would certainly help me filter out unsuitable options right away. My budgeting usually involves checking my bank balance the week before I leave, which is admittedly not the most strategic approach. Speaking of destinations, how do you research potential locations effectively, especially when trying to find those hidden gems that are not overrun by tourists? Jessica. Research is my favorite part. Beyond popular travel websites, I dive into more specialized resources. I read travel blogs focused on niche interests, explore local tourism board websites, and scour online forums where locals share recommendations. I also check social media using specific hashtags, looking for authentic experiences rather than just famous landmarks. For example, for a food-focused getaway to Charleston, South Carolina, I would search for local food blogs or Charleston culinary tours, rather than just Charleston attractions. To find hidden gems, look for towns adjacent to popular spots, or ask for recommendations from people who live in the region. Always check the seasonal considerations for your chosen dates. You don't want to plan a beach trip to Myrtle Beach in December. What about transportation? Do you prefer driving, flying, or taking a train for your getaways? Kevin. For weekend getaways, I almost always prefer driving. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and a drive gives me flexibility, allows me to bring more luggage, and I enjoy stopping at quirky roadside attractions. Plus, it usually works out cheaper for short distances, especially if I'm sharing fuel costs with a friend. The main downside is traffic, particularly around major holidays. I often underestimate driving times, which can eat into precious weekend hours. Have you had any experiences where your transportation choice significantly impacted the success or enjoyment of your trip? Jessica: absolutely. Transportation can make or break a short trip. For example, I once planned a weekend getaway to Boston, Massachusetts by train from New York City. The train was delayed by several hours due to unforeseen issues, completely derailing our first day's plans. Since then, for crucial timing, I always have a contingency plan. Flying, I check for direct flights with reliable airlines. If driving, I research alternative routes and check real-time traffic apps before departing. For trains, I look at their punctuality records. My rule is, prioritize reliability over the absolute cheapest option for a weekend trip, because time is your most valuable asset. What considerations do you make for accommodation? Are you a hotel person or do you prefer something like an Airbnb? Kevin: I'm pretty flexible with accommodation as long as it's clean and relatively affordable. For solo trips, a budget-friendly hotel or even a hostel might work. If I am traveling with friends, an Airbnb with a kitchen and common area is usually ideal for hanging out and sharing meals. I always check reviews extensively, especially focusing on cleanliness and location. My biggest accommodation mistake was booking a charming rustic cabin near Savannah, Georgia, that turned out to be much further from the main attractions than advertised, wasting a lot of travel time. How do you ensure your chosen accommodation genuinely fits the trip's purpose and location? Jessica: location is paramount. I use mapping tools to check the distance from my accommodation to the main attractions, restaurants, or natural parks I plan to visit. I also read recent guest reviews very carefully, paying close attention to comments about noise levels, amenities like Wi-Fi, parking, or a specific type of breakfast, and the general ambience. For a relaxation trip, I prioritize a quiet room with comfortable bedding. For an adventure trip, proximity to trailheads or activity centers is key. I also cross-reference different booking platforms to get the best price and ensure the property is legitimate. Have you considered looking into any unique or unconventional accommodation options for your future getaways, like glamping or a houseboat? Kevin: I actually haven't, but that's a fantastic idea. I tend to stick to what I know. Glamping sounds intriguing for a nature-focused trip, offering the outdoors experience without sacrificing comfort. A houseboat could be amazing for a serene getaway on a lake. I suppose I'm a creature of habit, but your point about tailoring accommodation to the trip's purpose really makes me want to explore those options. What's your strategy for planning activities? Do you create a rigid itinerary, or do you prefer to keep things more flexible? Jessica: for a weekend getaway, flexibility is key, but with a solid framework. I always identify my top 3 must-do activities or sites for any destination. These are the non-negotiables. For example, if I go to New Orleans, Louisiana, my must-dos might be visiting the French Quarter, trying a beignet at Café du Monde, and listening to live jazz. The rest of the time, I keep it open for spontaneous exploration, local recommendations, or simply relaxing. I research opening hours and any necessary booking requirements for the must-dos in advance to avoid disappointment. This hybrid approach prevents overscheduling but ensures I hit the highlights. Do you ever feel the pressure to do it all when you travel, and how do you manage that? Kevin: absolutely, that fear of missing out, or FOMO, is real. I often try to cram too many things into a single day, which leads to rushing, exhaustion, and not truly enjoying anything. Your top 3 must-do strategy sounds brilliant for managing that pressure. I guess I need to remind myself that a weekend trip is about quality, not quantity. How do you factor in meals and dining experiences into your planning? Do you research restaurants meticulously, or do you prefer to discover places spontaneously? Jessica: dining is a significant part of the travel experience for me. I usually research a few key restaurants for special meals or specific local cuisine I want to try. For example, if I'm visiting Nashville, Tennessee, I'll definitely research where to get the best hot chicken. I'll read reviews, check menus online for dietary restrictions, and make reservations if necessary, especially for popular spots. However, I also leave plenty of room for spontaneous discoveries, a charming local cafe for breakfast, or a street food vendor with an intriguing smell. I consider a balance of planned dining and casual exploration. What about packing? Do you have any golden rules for packing efficiently for a short trip to avoid overpacking? Kevin: oh, packing is my nemesis. I always overpack, bringing 5 outfits for a 2-day trip. My golden rule, which I consistently fail to follow, is lay out everything you think you need, then put half of it back. I usually end up carrying a heavy bag with clothes I never wear. I struggle with deciding what shoes to bring and always forget something crucial like a phone charger. What are your absolute must-have packing essentials for any weekend trip, regardless of destination? Jessica, I understand the struggle. My philosophy for weekend trips is to pack light and smart. My absolute must-haves are a versatile capsule wardrobe mix and match pieces, a comfortable pair of walking shoes, a universal power adapter if traveling internationally, a small first aid kit and a reusable water bottle. For toiletries, I only bring travel-sized versions or solid bar alternatives. I always lay out my outfits for each day, including accessories to avoid unnecessary items. And crucially, I always leave a little extra space for souvenirs. Have you ever had a packing disaster that taught you a valuable lesson? Kevin, yes, absolutely. I once packed for a beach trip to Miami, Florida, assuming perfect weather. I only brought light clothes and sandals. Of course, it rained the entire weekend and I was stuck in a single pair of wet sneakers and a flimsy jacket. Lesson learned. Always check the weather forecast for the duration of your trip, and pack at least one just-in-case outfit for unexpected weather changes. Now I always include a light rain jacket and an extra layer, even for sunny destinations. How do you factor in technology and staying connected while on your getaway? Do you aim for a digital detox or do you rely heavily on your devices? Jessica, it depends entirely on the purpose of the trip. For a true relaxation or nature retreat like a cabin in the Great Smoky Mountains, I aim for a digital detox, minimal screen time, perhaps only using my phone for photos or emergencies. I might even turn off notifications. For a city exploration or a trip where I'm documenting for social media, I rely heavily on my smartphone for navigation, booking tickets, finding reviews, and sharing updates. I always pack a portable power bank, especially for longer days out, and ensure I have offline maps downloaded. What about safety considerations? Do you have any standard practices for ensuring personal safety during your travels, even for short domestic trips? Kevin, safety is definitely something I've become more aware of, especially after hearing various travel stories. My standard practices include informing someone reliable about my itinerary, where I'm going, where I'm staying, and when I expect to be back. I share my hotel details with my friend Sarah Miller, who lives in New York City. I try to blend in, avoid looking overtly like a tourist, and keep valuables out of sight. I also research common scams in a new area. For example, I read about taxi scams in some cities, so I stick to ride-sharing apps like Uber or reputable taxi services. When exploring new areas, I try to stay aware of my surroundings, especially at night. What are your tips for dealing with unexpected hiccups or minor emergencies that might arise during a getaway? Jessica, unexpected issues are almost guaranteed to happen eventually, so having a plan is crucial. First, stay calm. Panicking never helps. Second, have readily accessible copies of important documents, your ID, health insurance card, and booking confirmations. I keep digital copies on my phone and a physical set in a separate bag from my wallet. Third, have emergency contact numbers saved, both local and personal. If there's a medical issue, know where the nearest urgent care clinic is, or the hospital at 789 Elm Street, Lakeside, Florida. If it's a missed flight, immediately check the airline's app for rebooking options. A little preparation goes a long way in turning a potential disaster into a minor inconvenience. Do you find that planning getaways provides a mental break even before the trip itself begins? Kevin, that's a great observation, and yes, absolutely. The act of researching, daydreaming about destinations, and piecing together an itinerary can be a wonderful form of escapism in itself. Provide something to look forward to, breaking the monotony of daily life. Even just browse flight deals or looking at pictures of different hotels can lift my spirits. It's like a mini vacation before the actual vacation. It shifts my focus from everyday stress to positive anticipation. Do you also find that the anticipation adds to the overall enjoyment of the trip? Jessica, without a doubt. The anticipation is a significant part of the travel experience. It builds excitement and allows you to mentally prepare for the shift in routine. It also gives you time to fine-tune your plans, research local customs, or even learn a few phrases in a new language if you're traveling internationally. This preparation often deepens the connection you feel with the destination even before you arrive. It's a powerful psychological benefit of planning. So to summarize, for successful weekend getaways, it's about thoughtful preparation, realistic expectations, and embracing both the planned and the spontaneous moments. Narrator: what an incredibly practical and inspiring discussion between Jessica and Kevin. They've masterfully guided us through the entire process of planning a weekend getaway, from initial inspiration and budgeting to packing efficiently and handling unexpected events. Their conversation powerfully demonstrates that thoughtful preparation can transform any trip into a truly enriching and memorable experience. Now, let's recap some of the key ideas and valuable vocabulary from their extensive discussion that you can immediately apply to plan your own perfect short escape. Practice session: expressing yourself. Let's revisit some valuable phrases and concepts from today's in-depth episode. Practice using these in your own descriptions. Weekend getaway: a short trip for leisure. What kind of weekend getaway would you like to plan? Set a budget. To decide how much money to spend. How important is it for you to set a budget for travel? Hidden gems: lesser-known wonderful places. Do you enjoy finding hidden gems when you travel? Contingency plan: an alternative plan for unexpected problems. Why is having a contingency plan important for trips? Overpack: to pack too many things. Do you tend to overpack for short trips? Narrator: as Jessica and Kevin so eloquently articulated, planning a weekend getaway is a fantastic way to practice your English and enhance your overall life skills. It's about more than just booking. It's about envisioning, organizing, and preparing for an experience. By mastering these interactions, you not only embark on exciting adventures but also build confidence in your English abilities in real-world scenarios. Until our next illuminating discussion on the English Learning Podcast, keep practicing, keep communicating clearly, and confidently plan your next memorable escape.